Yeah, Dad put a towel over him and untangled
You
it.
just reel it in.
I caught a seagull. He's flying. I had him by his feet, so his wings were free.
So, guys, welcome to the Words with Woodsman podcast.
Wait, you already started?
We already started. We're
Where's the
recording.
countdown?
The director wasn't paying attention.
Oh.
So if you hear a less manlier voice, Brady is here still with us this week, and so he's directing for us, Andy's kid, and so he's literally like behind the camera. He's doing this. He's like
he's
not that
confused
kind of
between a
not that
musical
kind of directing.
production.
You're not directing a musical. It's more like action. Like you're flopping. I don't know what's that thing called.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But we're currently sharing fishing stories. So Andy just shared that he caught a seagull. Like that's.
Where's the game warden here?
I
think
can't
it
say
was a
I've done
keeper.
that. I think seagull was a keeper. I want to see how you unhooked him. Like that would
I
have
was
been madness.
8 years old. Yeah, I mean, around Brady's age, and my dad put a towel over him and then untangled it.
That towel was smart. The towel was.
Oh, you don't want the bird to see you or bite you.
Well, I was more worried
calms
about
it.
the bird biting me than
Yeah.
him. He already seen me. I hooked him.
Yeah.
He knows that I'm there.
Made eye contact.
So when I was a kid, I was the one that always snagged everything. Now it's Randy, but
Yeah, well,
when I was
that's
a
true.
kid, it was me. So I'm famous for, like, we'll be fishing, I guess, down a rock jetty and there's trees on it, and I wouldn't just catch the tree on the edge of the rocks. I would somehow catch the other side of the tree up and over. My dad would be like, "How did you catch it 45 feet in the air?"
And then it's a 45-minute endeavor to get
Oh,
everything
you just
unhooked.
snap the rod.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
the line, not the rod, but yeah.
Yeah, there was this when we were fishing Grenada Lake one time. I heard about this one. I wasn't on this trip, and so it's my dad and my uncle, and they're fishing Grenada Lake, and my dad's crappie fishing, so he's in the front of the boat, he's jigging, he's doing this thing, right? And they had these things called yo-yos. So if you're in North Mississippi, you're very familiar with you know what a yo-yo
Yeah,
is?
absolutely.
So literally, Randy's gonna go buy a pack of these after I describe them. But literally, or if Cash is listening, Cash will he'll have them next time I take him fishing. But literally, you take them and you hook them in a tree. It's a little metal reel. It's spring loaded, and so you set your depth and you lock it, and you hook a minnow on the bottom side of it. And so when the crappie come up and grab a minnow, they pull it, and literally this device will just pull their head out of the water, just and you can hear them. They look like a little yo-yo, like what you play with, right? And so Dad and my uncle have been like running yo-yos all day and all this kind of stuff. They're doing pretty good on catching fish. Well, my uncle decides, he gets bored from crappie fishing and decides to bass fish. So he's got a rubber worm with a bullet weight sinker on it, right? And so anyone who's bass fishing, you know how heavy that is, right? And so he's slinging and throwing, right? He's doing the whole thing. He rears back, slings this thing. The bullet weight catches my dad on the side, like right in the temple. Dad thought he was shot.
Yeah.
He goes down in the boat. I think he may have said, I don't know what kind of words he said. I wasn't there, so I don't know what. But I do know that he thought that he was shot in that moment because my uncle just whacked him across the side of the head with it. And this is the same guy that if you look at my dad's ear, there's a scar right here. Well, one is from a barbed wire fence as a kid. He rode his bicycle into it. Okay. The other was he was fishing with a spoon bait with a treble hook, went to throw it, and the hook ripped through his ear as he was casting it. Same year.
Yeah.
So
We had that almost issue yesterday.
So many people
Our in group.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to say which one, but one of them rear back, but had the other person's fishing pole.
Well, so I was in the Poconos, and what happens is the shad run. And so when that happens, everybody lines up and the water's flowing fast. So you almost have to cast it up and then it comes down. But you're throwing these little shad darts. It doesn't weigh much, but it does have a little weight to it. And I cast out and I caught a branch as I was casting forward. And I pulled to get it out and it hit me right in the temple and knocked me over and I fell in the river
geez.
flowing. So
I'm going to go see Jesus.
yeah, right in the temple.
That would hurt.
But one of the funniest casting things is my dad had this lure that was rainbow. It was a rattle trap, and it was a medium size, not the jumbo, just the standard size rattle trap. And he goes, "This is my favorite lure. This catches so many fish." He casts it down the rock jetty. It hits a rock and breaks in half.
Oh, no.
The first cast after he said
no.
that, we were
This is my
absolutely
favorite.
dying. This is my favorite lure. And then it just
Not anymore.
It snapped in half.
It gone.
Yeah. But I shared with you guys one of the other funny things that happened fishing from a tackle perspective is I was out of Sarasota, Florida, about 80 miles offshore, and it was about 110 feet. And we were catching red snapper one after another after another. And I had a rod. It was a conventional reel. I'm just fighting them one after another. And starting to get a little tired. And it's 100 degrees out, so my fingers are kind of like seizing up a little bit. So I actually had one on. I'm reeling him in, and something bigger took it. And when he took it, I just couldn't hold on. He took the rod right out of my hand. And the guys are like, oh my gosh, what just happened? It was an expensive rod and reel. So it's gone, but we have on the chart where we were. So I said, let's drift it again. The guy next to me caught my rod. He caught the line.
way.
We pulled the line up, and it was my buddy Matt. And then we pulled it up, and there's the rod. And I go, dude, thanks. He goes, how much you want for it?
That's extortion.
Yeah, it's
You know, the first time a few years ago, we took my dad and I took Randy saltwater fishing for the very first time. Okay, so Randy up to this point had only done freshwater. I love telling stories about you when you're here, but only done freshwater. So you're talking about what, maybe 4 or 5 pound bass at most. Probably was his biggest fish up to this point. This is pre-Alaska. This is before you went to Alaska.
trees.
The trees don't count. Maybe some cars that's out in the middle of the lake.
Oh my gosh.
But Randy locks on to about this 30-pound redfish that's up in the. He was casting. We were fishing for flounder.
Yeah.
And Randy slings it up into the marsh, and this big old redfish, and it was a good redfish. Big old redfish latches on. And my favorite thing is when Randy gets like adrenaline driven. He's like running around the edges of the boat. He's like running back and forth. There is no sense of balance or anything. He loses all of that, right? And so Randy's got this redfish, and he's just losing his mind on the back of this boat.
Because the pole's like,
He's like, this is the biggest fish out there. And this is before Alaska. So Alaska, he caught some salmon that was way bigger than that. But like, it's like just through the ceiling. He went to a level 10.
Yeah. And you landed it?
oh yeah,
Nice.
Well, it was like the third time I went there because I said, I think there's something in there, And as soon as I got it,
When you kept
You ever
seeing the
seen
marsh
that?
grass.
Yeah.
You ever seen that kid that caught a big fish? He's on his the kayak, and his friend's like, "Look at this," and the other one's back there. Oh my god! He's screaming like a little girl. That was me basically running in the boat, and his dad's like,
Has he caught a fish before?
"Yeah."
Well, our normal experience is, if anyone's seen like the TikTok video, it's the audio of Uncle Si, and it's like, I've caught this big water heifer. You have caught the dock. That's our normal experience around here. Yeah. So when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, my dad took me out saltwater fishing, and all I wanted to do was catch a shark. Of course, as a kid, it's like, that's all you want to do.
Ultimate.
It's the ultimate, right? And so maybe I was 10. I was a little bit older because I was able to handle it by myself. So he gets behind this shrimp boat. And what a lot of people may not realize is those sharks always follow those fishing vessels, because a lot of times fish are getting caught in the nets or falling off the
Throwing
fish.
the byproduct.
They're throwing the byproduct out, which they're just chumming the water for these sharks that are.
It's creating a big trail.
Yeah. And so in a shrimp boat has there's a big trail behind a shrimp boat. And so we get behind this shrimp boat that's coming in, and my dad throws it out there, and all of a sudden Dad just hands me the reel, and I'm sitting there, I'm trying, and it's about a 4 or 5 foot black tip shark. And so I get it. That was a battle, like, especially when you're like 10, because it's just like he's pulling harder than you. And I finally get that one in. As soon as I get that one in, they get him unhooked and released. Dad's again, hands me another reel, and he does this 2 or 3 times. And by the time the third one, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, I'm done.
I'm done.
I'm done. I'm over this. I can never catch another shark a day in my life, and I will be okay with that.
He got it out of your system.
He got it out of my system. Were y'all down there that day? We were at the dam, and that guy caught that. I think you were there.
It was me.
That big striper.
Yeah.
Did you see that? Were you there?
No, he caught it from shore, right?
Yeah, it was.
I wasn't there.
It was
that day.
42 inches.
It was
monster striper.
And he was worried about it breaking because it's been a couple years since he went fishing, and he had the best patience. You
He
can ever
did.
because like he wasn't trying to force it in. He was letting it wear it down, and we're all like, bring it in, we're ready. Let's see this.
Well,
thing."
that was the day that we and he was fishing with those long beach rods, right?
Yeah.
The extra long ones. Well, and he's over there fishing, and like you said, he hadn't, like, his line's old, so he's worried about snapping it, right? But that was the day we met Dan the man. I actually got Dan to join the group, but we're down there and he fought that fish for at least 20 minutes of just
And everybody's lines
Little
were
bit
up
of time.
watching. Like,
Yeah.
almost cheering him on.
everyone else stopped fishing and just watched this guy. So he had an audience.
Yeah.
No pressure whatsoever.
And he's walking it and reeling it.
It's tough from shore. In the boat, we just let it go down and wear them down.
Yeah, but he's just sitting there.
Sure, you gotta fight the
not
current.
only not so we're at the dam, right? So
Yeah.
not only is he fighting the fish,
Yeah.
but that current is churning.
Generating, yeah.
So he's up next to where the generators are,
Oh.
and so he's fighting the current and the fish.
Well, it's going all directions there.
so it's
too.
going all directions, and so
Well, and if that line got down towards the generator, there's so much stuff down there.
well, there's so many rocks that you can
Oh
cut
my
that line on. Like,
Yeah.
the odds were in the fish's favor.
Yep.
For that one, which, so I'm surprised he didn't lose him. Cash and I went fishing the other day, and we saw this neon green cork, and it's just getting drug around like it's all over the lake, and we're like, what is attached to this cork? Like someone broke it off, right?
But
And
there's a fish
the
on it?
fish still on it, right? And so the way he was swimming, we're like, that we don't think that's a bass because he's traveling the whole lake. He's all over the place. And so we're like, man, this has got to be a catfish. And so we tried to net it, right? And we even tried to snag it, but we couldn't because he just got away from us. Okay. So Cash is fishing down on the bank, right? And Cash can talk to anybody. He can have a conversation with a stump. And he's having a conversation with some random guy, and the guy goes, yeah, I saw a cork the other day. I snagged a fish that had a cork. Cash goes, was it neon green? The guy goes, how'd you know that? He goes, it's the same fish. The guy said it was about a 15-pound catfish.
Are you
And
kidding?
he snagged it and re-released it. But yeah, we're over there at Bull Run chasing this thing around.
You had the boat, and you still couldn't catch the
I couldn't
cork?
catch him because he kept diving. He would just
Oh
he
my
was so
gosh.
big that cork wasn't slowing him
Yeah.
down. He just anytime you got the boat near him, he would
He was
dive.
dipping.
Yeah. So yeah, you get out. That's the beauty about fishing, and that's the thing I love about it. I don't know. I never really got into any other sport besides hunting and fishing, and so for me, and it may be this way for the regular sports world too. I don't know, but for me, it's just the random stories that you get that you collect over the years, because when you get out there, there's so many unpredictable factors, right? You got weather, you got conditions, you got the fish, like there's so many different variables
in your boat.
the people in your boat, whether they whack you with a rod or whatnot.
Or you go fishing in a lightning storm and still holding the umbrella.
We were out on
Cat has a good
kayaks.
one about
So
that.
before we had boats, we were sequestered to kayak land. Okay. So those were some tough times. And so,
No, I kind of miss them sometimes.
do you? Well, you won't miss it after I tell the story. But so we're down there fishing one day, and I'm watching Randy. Okay, and Randy's got this whole setup. He's built these rod holders on the back of this kayak of his, right?
Yeah.
And the kayak that I sold him, by the way, like this used to be my kayak.
It was pretty planned. I made it.
So there's a pattern here. You bought the kayak and your boat?
yeah.
He just buys everything from me. I'm
It's the best
I'm getting ready to sell him my house next, I think.
Seriously.
But he goes to set his rod behind him and his rod holders, misses the rod holders completely, and there goes the rod. Bloop.
And it didn't
To the
even-
bottom.
Did you get it back?
No, it didn't even float. I tried.
I heard a shuffle, and I looked over, and Randy's like, "What? Are you serious?"
Yeah, brand new
Tie
rod.
a bunch of hooks on something and you drag it.
Well, now I have things that hook onto my rods, so even if I drop them,
You float.
You learned.
after,
He learned.
Yeah.
it wasn't a cheap one at that time either.
Well, guys, we're coming up on our first break, and when we come back, we'll pick up our study in James. Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. We are back and we are starting with we're in verse 13 today, guys. So we're in James chapter 3. So I'll read it and then we can discuss it. But James is last week, we talked about, our words and it's like the second or third time that James has brought this up. So it's almost like it's an ongoing problem, right?
Yeah.
And so we're picking up with verse 13. So I'll read it and then we can discuss it. He says this, he says, "Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in humility that comes from wisdom. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such," and he puts in quotes, "wisdom does not come from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, peace loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness." And so, like, he's really diving off into, I kind of think we should focus on today is how much destruction can envy and ambition, like selfish ambition, bring to our lives? Like, how many people, take envy, for example, like you're looking at what someone else has, and that whole grass isn't always greener kind of thought process, right? Which they think the grass is greener, right?
Yeah.
But it can drive you mad.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what level you get to, somebody always has more or appears to have it better. But that's not the case at all.
Yeah. You can,
And that's not where your joy and happiness should come from either.
right.
Yeah.
How many times do we think, and this is just being raw and real here, how many times do we think, our solution to our life, like the thing that's going to make us happy is that next level, that promotion,
Yeah.
or that girl that we're going to marry, or that, we think, hey, and it's kind of disheartening because we spend our lives going, hey, if I can just make it to this next thing, I'll finally be happy.
I don't want the next promotion. That just means more responsibility.
Well, there's that too, right? Like that the phrase, was it "mo money, mo problems"? Like that's actually true, right? Like you. I had
Biblical.
Yeah.
well, I had a pastor say one time, and I thought this was so good. He said, if you make, and I think I've said this before on the podcast, but you make $20,000 a year, like you've got $20,000 a year problems, right? There's things that come with that, right? Like you may struggle to pay your bills and all that kind of stuff. You continue that out like 50,000 and 80,000, 100,000 and 200,000. Like some things in your life might get easier, like your ability to provide and pay bills, but that doesn't mean that you're problemless. You're still dealing with stuff. Otherwise, you would never, if having all these things really made you happy, then why has there ever been a millionaire that committed suicide? Right? Like it's the reality of they get there and they go, man, is this it? It's like that whole Tom Brady video that we talked about, like it was like episode 3.
Yeah.
Where, Tom Brady's like, is this
After
it?
3 Super Bowls, like I
Right.
just thought I'd feel more like this is it. I've been the MVP. There's got to be more to life. And my favorite was the comments that said, dude, it's right in front of you. His name is Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, in the comments in all bold, they're like, oh my gosh, we are not going to find our happiness in our profession. We're not going to find it maybe even in our personal lives unless we have a relationship with Jesus and we look to him for that.
Well, in fact, James says the opposite here of if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition, it's not, these are not things that's coming from heaven. In fact, he even goes, hey, this is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic, because what happens is it drives you to act and do things that you wouldn't normally go and do. And it's things opposite of which God would have you. Like, I've been in, I've been in situations to where, you have a boss or you have a coworker, you have someone that you work with that their goal is, hey, I'm going to make it to the next level. And it's that whole, I will do anything it takes to get there. Even if it means running over other people. And on one hand, you're hurting the people around you. So that's first off. But 2, I can't imagine you're happy doing that.
3, those people you ran over, you may be leading next.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is I can't imagine, I don't see joy or happiness in that, because if you were truly happy, then why would you feel the need to do that? Like, it's because you're grasping for something, right?
Yeah.
You're just grasping for that next thing. And there's so many times that, Satan leads us astray when, fulfillment, true fulfillment only comes from God.
Well, every second that you fixate on that next thing, that next job, that next car, that next house, you're not fixated on Jesus. That's what Satan wants.
You're almost idolizing
Absolutely.
that next thing.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing I was thinking of. And it's especially here in our American culture where we there's nothing wrong with having nice things. There's nothing wrong with, working hard and striving. In fact, there's a lot of biblical elements in there, but God never wants you for that to become your God or your idol, right? And for so many people, that's our struggle. Like, how many people, destroy their homes, like their marriages, over striving like that, right? They're never home. They never, like, they don't spend time with their families. And it's because and in their mind, they go, well, I'm providing, right? Like, I'm making a way for my family, right?
Yep.
But the thing is, man, I think your family would rather have you than the paycheck.
Yeah.
There was a rather wealthy neighborhood in one of the towns I used to work in, and we had several students from there. And one of the things is we went over to I don't remember why we were going to their house. We were over there for something, and this is like $1 million homes, right? Like multi-million-dollar homes. Like, there was some famous like NFL football players that actually lived in these homes, right, at one point in time. And you go to this house and you open the front door, and the house isn't furnished. There's not a stitch of furniture. Like, the mattresses are in the floor. Like, there's no couches. There's nothing. And these families, these individuals had purchased these homes for the appearance.
But they can't afford
But they
to
couldn't
furnish
afford
it.
to furnish it. They were so house poor because of how much it cost to live in there.
Oh, my word.
And for the amount of money that it would have cost for them to purchase that home or stay in that home, right? You could have went to another neighborhood and had a fully furnished home, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what that makes me think of it's a trap. It's really quite sad, right? Like, here's the deal. I'm not attacking those people. I'm not taking a shot at them, but I'm saying there's a sadness there because you're chasing this selfish ambition so much when God's like, hey, I blessed you with the ability to at least make enough money to buy this home, right? If you live within your means, like, you would have so much more peace in that. And even more so, like, go get your fulfillment from God, then you wouldn't need all this anyways.
Yeah.
See, we've gone around where we see things like the big boats, the nice houses, and the kids are like, "Oh, that'd be cool," and I'm like, "Man, the stress that has to be on the household
Yeah.
to maintain that." Because one loses their job. I always wonder, if one loses their job, how much of that do they lose now? Because we're never guaranteed our job
Right.
or even our
I've had it taken away in an instant.
or life in general. You lose one of your spouses, it changes everything. So to me, that's more stress.
Right.
Live below, like, don't live what your paycheck is. Live below your paycheck.
Well, and the thing is, and you can't let it drive you to, especially as believers. Okay. So this is a message. Once again, James is writing to believers, right? So let's keep that context correct. What he's saying is, hey, us as believers, we've got a bigger goal in place. And we've got something else to focus on, and it's not what this world has to offer. Like, we've got the ability to have joy when we have nothing or when we have all of it, right? Like, in everything in between. And James is going, hey, like, this is not this is not your focus. Don't fall into this trap of, I've got to hit the next level. I've got to strive for this. And here's the deal. There's nothing wrong with having a goal. There's nothing wrong with having ambition. But when it begins to teeter into that selfish ambition where it's all about you and it's all about, hey, you know what? Forget everything around me. Forget my coworkers. Forget my family. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there, right? You're in very dangerous territory with that. Yeah, there's just so much there. And I love how he flips the script there, because he doesn't just stop there, but then he tells us the other side of it. He says the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy, good fruit, impartial, and sincere. Okay, so first off, you're not going to be able to manufacture those things on your own. So I love that like ties into what we talked about last week. Like, it goes back to submitting to the Holy Spirit, and it goes back to that mindset of, hey, this isn't my God. This isn't my idol. Like, my job is not my God. It can be taken away from me in a second. My car, my possessions, my, paycheck, the leagues that I'm able to sign my kids up in, like all these appearances, they're not my God. They might be nice things that's in my life, but they're not my God.
Yeah.
And it's that whole thought process of, hey, if I want to be able to focus in and have that wisdom that's pure, peace loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy, good fruit, I've got to be leaning into the Holy Spirit for that. And I got to be growing in my relationship with Jesus, and he developed those things in me, and it's not the other way around.
Yeah. And that's hard to do in today's society with social media.
Oh, yeah. Well, the marketing world's got that down pat. They get that, right?
Yeah.
Because go look at a commercial, right? Go look at even more specifically, go look at a car commercial, right? It's all about, you're going to have the toughest truck, or you're going to have the nicest car, or you're going to have, which brings me to a funny point, all these like vandalism of Teslas and stuff like that. This is off topic. There was a Tesla in Maine when we were up there a few weeks ago. The guy had taken the Tesla logo off, and he slapped a Kia logo
Don't mess with it.
on his car. It's like, don't mess with it. But anyways, my point is you go look at a car commercial or really any commercial, they're all about hey, if you buy this product, you'll be more popular. Or you buy this product, you'll finally have joy. Like, it kills me, the car commercials around Christmas time, and it's like, joy, like you want to give the gift of joy, and I'm like, no, you're gonna
Bow.
well, it's a big old bow on the car
In the snow.
No,
Yeah.
no, you didn't give the gift of joy. You gave the gift of payments. Like,
Yeah.
that's the gift that you just gave.
Yeah, because like it's about, even in cars, is almost, they're set up to entertain when you're in the car anymore. Like the car that has the speakers right here, so you can be on the phone while everybody else behind you is partying on.
Right.
And it's like, I struggle with that.
And it's easy to fall into that trap, right? It's
Yeah.
so easy, because we think that, you go buy a new truck or new car and you think, man, I'm finally going to be, everyone's going to talk about it. Everyone's going to be, and they do. They might talk about it for a couple of weeks, but guess what? In a couple of weeks, someone else rolls out with a new vehicle, and no one cares about yours anymore.
Well, so I had the cool car in the family. Then my wife got a new vehicle. Now they won't even drive it.
None of your kids wants to ride in your car.
Still way cooler.
And your car can fart. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
It does make fart noises.
well, and that's such a great example of this.
Not cool.
Of well, and that's such a great example of this. Of, you go get a new boat, right? Everyone's talking. All the guys want to go ride on your new boat, right? And all of a sudden, either your boat gets dinged or it becomes old news, and
They invent live scope.
right,
Trolling motors.
no one
useless.
no one cares about it anymore. And then guess what? Usually, and this is just practical wisdom here, usually the payments last longer than the coolness. And so that's
That it does.
True.
that's the downside of it, right? But the bottom line is, and we're running out of time, but the bottom line is, from a scriptural standpoint, is don't put your faith in these things. And it's so easy to do. And there's a reason why James talks about it. It's because we do this, right? We think, if I get this next level, or I get this job, or I get these things, and our director just hit our camera. It's okay. It's not an earthquake, people. It's okay. We will continue.
We will rebuild.
We will rebuild. But where was I going with that? But if we put our focus on Jesus, he will give us the joy. He will give us all those things. And when you have those things, or if you lose those things, you'll be able to make it through, because it's not where your worth is placed.
He will provide. If you
He will.
let him, he will provide.
Yeah.
In the darkest days, the brightest days, he will provide.
Well, I was talking about, and we're a little over, but I was talking about, Philippians is the joy book, right? That's the whole book about joy. Philippians was written from a prison cell. Like Paul was talking about all these joyful things and the things to like focus on and all this kind of stuff. He wrote that from prison. And so as believers, it goes back to that whole, you get to be invincible, right? Where even in prison, even when you're writing about your own death, that can be considered joyful, right? And so we're out of time, but when we come back, we will pick up with chapter 4 of James, and we're working our way through James. We should finish it maybe in a couple of weeks. Who knows? And we'll be on to the next book.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, we hope you have a great week, and we will see you next time.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Words with Woodsman podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. We'll see you next time.